to get all the blood, you gotta go down here and then there you go.
That's so nasty.
Do it, touch it, touch it, touch it.
That's so gross.
Okay, today a little different. Take you guys through everything leading up to a training session. So right now it is a little after 2 p.m. Been training at 3:30. I've been consciously moving my training time a little bit earlier because I know what happens at a certain point. It's like you wake up with your best energy and you probably have like a 5-6 hour window before things start to kind of spiral downwards. Energy anyways. So having my training earlier, like I think towards the end of this prep probably be happening like 11 a.m. to noon or something like that. My usual time is like 6:30. So 3:30, it is 2 p.m. We're going to have a little pomegranate juice pre-training. These cherries, which are going to go on my, what is it, lactose-free Greek yogurt. And and then after this, there's a very important next step before we get to training. It's not what you guys think. All right, so I'm gonna finish this up, and then I'll be speaking with you guys shortly. Okay, towel here, super important to me. Maybe y'all might not roll with this, but I like to shower before I go to the gym. To me, going to the gym, to me to train is kind of like an event. And I mean, yeah, it's like I need to show up and be professional about it. So step one is get ready, for me anyways, to go to the gym the same way that I would if I was, I guess going to work, right? But it's fun work. Nevertheless, yes, that's my thing. I can't show up dirty and have sweat on top of sweat. If that means 2 showers in a day, sometimes 3, that is fine. But yeah, I need to show up sparkling. Like that sets the tone. Very important for me. All right, this is what we went with. All right, blue Lulu Limon shorts. Not a snob. It's just you can like these things. They stay looking good for years. I have some Lulu stuff that I've had for close to a decade now. Just some casual Van socks. My homeboy Zane gave me some of these. I still got to make it out here. It seems like another wonderful playland here in Colorado. So got this. Love this shirt. Love these shorts. This is another Lulu headband. But I feel good. And I think that's important. It's like yeah, you're putting on your uniform to go take care of business. So even like if you're not necessarily like feeling in the mood to train, or you don't feel like you have that edge for the day, sometimes simply just getting your outfit on, like sometimes that changes things. It's like your mind's conditioned, So to me, this is a big part of my ritual. It's like the shower, put on your nice little gym clothes, because again, it's an occasion, and yeah, to me it helps a lot from a psychological standpoint, especially. So, and like who was it? I think Dion said it.
Look good, you play good, pay good, live good, eat good, die good.
And sometimes that outfit is your $5 Rugrat shirt. So, again, it's here's what I like to compare it to. It's like, you remember waking up early Monday through Friday as a kid, right? When school was in session, and then Saturday you're just like, right? So these cues matter, man, at a subconscious level, they do. So you don't have to go like I know I have the luxury of being able to like literally kill an hour to get myself in the mood for what's to come. But back in the day, I remember with my old training partners, like we would hang around in the lobby, drink our coffee, talk a little mess, and then once we were about like 3/4 finished with the coffee, we'd go train. And that was our way of kind of centering ourselves and getting ourselves ready for what is to come. So yeah, man, like your body's always paying attention. I know that for me, like once I hit that shower, even if I'm kind of feeling like my body's like, all right, we're about to do that thing. And then I get on my gym clothes, my clothes that I'm only allowed to wear to train, and my body's like, okay, I guess we are doing this today. And then the drive, right? The drive at the same time every day, like, so we're making our way there. Like, it's like, okay, I guess this is going down, you know? So again, like off season, I really don't have a hard time finding like those levels of arousal that training requires. But I know that at some point, like late into this prep, that will be the case. So these sort of routines, they help you a lot. And again, they don't have to be as glamorous and like as long-winded as mine, but they help immensely. So again, just really setting up the groundwork for what is to come, especially once this thing gets hard, really hard, because it will get to that point. That's the nature of the beast. You know what? I haven't lost a whole lot of weight, but clothes is fitting differently. Like these pants, I actually got these pants when I was like 160 pounds. Like I was like 5 pounds away from stage weight a few years back, and look how loose they're just draped over my shins. And a lot of that just has to do with the fact that I've stretched them out in the off season. So, you know, I think for the most part, even in like my regular people clothes right now, I look like I lift, but another 10 pounds or so, and maybe I look like I run, a little athletic. But you know, that's just how it is. Even with the enhanced guys, like I've done NPC shows, and you know, you're backstage, and you know, you might see some guy who in his like outfit, like his rear delts are just like they look like football pads, and you're like, damn, this guy brought it. But once they disrobe, you're like, oh, never mind, this inconspicuous dude over here who clothes just look like it was barely hanging on him. So either way, like I've befriended over the years like a few like top level IFBB athletes, and same deal with them, like them in the off season versus them when they're prepping. Like stuff fits differently. It really does. So can't let that play with your mind too much, because I do look at them like, wow, what's going on with these pants? Like especially the back of my pants looks so sad. I hold so much fat in my glutes that I just stretch out all my pants. So once it's time to lose a few pounds, like it looks like diapers, man. So this is my quad dominant day. These are the movements I do: 3 sets of Cybex leg press, 2 sets of leg extensions, and then the last set, after the last set of leg extensions, I get into that Sissy Squat pattern you see there. I've been doing a super good job, I think, in regards to not biting off more than I can chew. You know, fatigue management, it's important, even for bodybuilders. And I know that sometimes when I'm well fed, I will bite off a little bit more than I can chew. And then that can become a tangled mess, and you have to wait for that to sort out before you can actually start progressing the way you expect it to. But right now I'm being quite disciplined with that. And because, you know, it's a mess in the off season. And if you go too fast too soon when you are dieting, bro, it is extra hard. Like it's more work to untangle. So, and that can do a lot for you up here as you're kind of just having all these consecutive shitty sessions. That thing at the top of the anterior delt, that's new. That is new. So I really thought my anterior delts were like done. Like I really thought that there's no way, like I think they're just maxed out. And it kind of goes to show you that you don't know shit sometimes, man. So I do think finally finding some sort of anterior dominant, like overhead-ish press that suits me has done a lot for me. Also things like this, I really do believe that the majority of my progress this offseason came in the last year or so. This is a fine way to just really make sure that this area is taken care of. So what I'm doing here, Lat Dominant Row, 3 sets. The first 2 sets, just your typical work, 10-ish RM. I'm hitting it for 7, 8s, 9s, something like that. And then on the last one, I'll hit it for 4 or 5 reps, leave it there, and then go load up that lengthened position that, again, is always going to be limited by like what you can bring all the way to that arbitrary endpoint. This has been just, I think, back changing. I do think that's been just a huge portion of like why my back has improved tremendously. Now we got to keep it though, right? So it means like, hey, don't act like a fool in there. Like, remember, we're in a deficit. This anterior delt press, I've been extra patient with. I've hit 100 pounds on this for 7s over the last 4 weeks. But there's little things that I'm improving on. Like, you know, they're not necessarily very obvious to the naked eye, but I can feel it. Little things like just confidence with the kickback, you know, crispier first reps, things like that. But yeah, I am perfectly fine with keeping it here. And especially as my body weight continues to drop, like if my body weight's dropping, but that's not dropping, that's kind of like by default adding weight to the movement, subtle amounts of weight. It's like the exact opposite of how like pull-ups and chin-ups work, right? When you're dieting. So again, very happy with just how responsible I have been. And I've been progressing this way. So it's like, I'm gonna keep doing this because the feedback so far has been quite good. Rear delt row here. I know people think of rear delts, they think up here, but really quick tutorial over how to find each individual head. So for the anterior delt, it's gonna be that same arm path that you would use when you were raising your hand, right? Like no one really goes, right? It's kind of out here. And actually, the medial delt is kind of in the same area. Like when you're doing that movement, like it shouldn't feel like a raise. It should feel almost like a flick, like a jab, like you're very free to move your humerus in this path. With the rear delt, kind of the same thing, but it's this way. It kind of reminds me a lot of like sprinting. I remember when I would sprint a long time ago, like I'd get a nice massive, like, I wouldn't say pump, but like fatigue back there. So same principles here as the Lat Dominant Row. I am performing sets of 4 to 5 on my last set, and then upping the load. I think I did 5 here simply because, as you can see, transitioning over the other dumbbells, it's just a time suck. So to make up for that, I hit 5 on this one, even though I wasn't necessarily feeling like fantastic on this day. But yeah, that is where you'll find your rear delt. And to be honest, like I've never really trained my rear delt directly. So just, I always thought rows did more, and I can kind of see why, like now in hindsight, is I'm approaching it from this manner. So yeah, life is good. Things are going according to plan, but I'm not going to get too cocky because this stuff will humble you. This is my glute dominant lower body day, glutes and hams. One thing that I've also been kind of streamlining is my warm-ups, trying to find that sweet spot, because you know how it goes, man. Off season, like if you need a few extra warm-ups because you're just not feeling it, like you can totally do that. You have the energy to do that. But I know that at a certain point, that's not going to be the case. So I'm really trying to standardize my warm-ups and find, especially for big movements like this, where again, inhibition on the wrong day can definitely be a factor. Yeah, just trying to figure out like what's the one size fits most for most days. Like my first warm-up set is actually going to be picking up all my plates, like finding my plates, because a lot of our 45s are on 45s at my gym. So this brand right here is like as close as we get. And on a movement like this, where you're like just adding the margin of error on top of the margin of error, you can have one side that weighs like significantly more than the other if you're unlucky. So I find all my weights, and then, you know what, that kind of works as a cue. Like my body's like, oh, okay, we gonna do some RDLs today, I guess. All right, if you say so, buddy. But I get my stuff together, bar for a set of 20, one plate for a set of like 10, and then after this, it just kind of turns into 5s. I like 5s. Until I break that point where I'm like beyond like say 70% of my targeted weight. At that point, I will just hit singles. or I will just hit reps until I get that crispy rep that I want. And I'll leave it there because that's the last thing my body remembers. Put that thing back, add the next increment, and yeah, make it to my working weight fresh, which again can definitely be an issue. Again, it's a push-pull sort of relationship when you're deep into your diet, because every warm-up set like takes a little something from you. So you need to be frugal with him, be sharp with him. So I'm starting to mind that a little bit more than maybe I would in the off season. This is 315, goes up for 5, and then 365. I remember, so I don't pause my reps until I get to the actual like working weight, or the weight before the working weight. Otherwise, it would just beat the crap out of me. So I forgot to pause it. So I was like, okay, if that felt good, but let's pause it just so that your first pause isn't with the scheduled 405 on this day. So yeah, again, just thinking about the future a little bit more and making the proper adjustments to my training based off like, you know, and that's one thing that helps about just having a few preps under your belt. It's like that experience helps you because you know what's coming, you know. You don't the first time you do this, and that's a huge issue. Here is the big set. The pauses were not as crispy as last week, and that's just because that 455 that I did just to confirm that my top end strength abilities are still there. It wrecked me, man. Like these pauses were kind of like barely there. One of my athletes did this, I'd be like, can you do like a pause that's twice as long? But you know, again, by folding my hand today, I think I'll be rewarded come next week. Sometimes when you try to force things, that's when you get in trouble. And something that would have been like one off workout ends up turning into like 3 of them. So this is the other change that I've made on this day. I was loading up the Cybex Leg Press for my hip dominant leg press, my glute dominant leg press, but that was a lot of weight to drag over. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just do this, do it unilaterally. If I do it unilaterally, there should be plenty of weight. And also one thing I do like about this machine is that your hips are slightly more flexed compared to the Cybex, which is where you want to be when you're doing something that's a bit more glute dominant. Think of the difference between like a low bar squat versus a high bar squat, right? And like what joint is moving, I guess, more, right? So yeah, I like the ready position because of the backrest on this one. But man, I was wiped on this day. You're gonna see my last set with 405 here, and my pauses just got worse. Like I hit the bottom and immediately like the shakes would start. But again, by folding on this day and not forcing something, doing just enough work to let my body know it's like, hey, no, I'm still trying to do this thing here. There's a good chance they come next week, like I'll be fresh, I'll be good. And if not, you know, again, I'll go with what's there on that day. And then hopefully at some point I will be rewarded. But that's a mistake that I've done in the past where it's just like, you know, the fighting spirit in you is like, you know what, like you can't have a bad day. You can't. But in reality, like they happen in the off season too. I just think when they take place, like over the course of a prep, like when you have a deadline, you're just more subject to doing like dumb things. And honestly, sometimes trying to match or beat the logbook, what it can do to you when it's not the right time to do so, it's like you end up changing technique, which can hurt you. Worst case, but quite often it can kind of, you're not holding the muscle up to the fire no more. Like you're improvising in some way to get away with it. I'm trying to avoid that. And that's just something that, again, comes with experience. Yeah, I really like this movement. Looks like it's a keeper. Hamstrings look pretty good here. And that is probably the area that I think more so than my back is going to be the most improved. It's just that we have to wait on it because I carry a good amount of fat back there. But this is the first time I've had a selection of hinge patterns that just feel amazing. So anyhow, physique update. I skipped it last week. This is what it looks like this week. Next week, we're going to have the posing trunks on. So you're going to see just why I do have about 16 or so pounds to go because it's all back there. But overall, pleased with how I'm pacing it. These are the weigh-ins. We're not changing anything. If anything, we're just going to make it, I've only like taken away steps. I've taken away cardio. Added a refeed day. So now there's 3 high days a week instead of 2. So again, it's, yeah, man, it's, I'm in control right now. But again, this thing has a way of humbling you. At some point I will be humbled, and I'll be 100% honest with you guys. Like, damn, that it got me. So yeah, that's 15 weeks out. We got 15 weeks to that first show. That's what we're looking like. Come back next week to see that fat ass.